Hi, this is George Durkee with Columbia College, and this will be the 5th video for ArcGIS Creating a Basic Map class. And in this videos, I'll cover adding GPS tracks to ArcGIS, as well as inserting map elements like your legend, north arrow, etc., into your layout view prior to printing a map. So for adding GPS tracks, there's several ways of doing it. ArcGIS, as opposed to ArcGIS Explorer, doesn't just take GPX tracks in straight away. You've got to convert them before you do that. An advantage, incidentally, of ArcGIS Explorer desktop is that you can just find your GPX track and pull it straight in, and it'll convert it as you do that. I use, or like to use most of the time, a program called DNR GPS. You can Google that and download it for free. It's Department of Natural Resources, University of Minnesota, and it's pretty useful. Though there's other ways of doing it. Your GPS will come with some sort of utility so that you can download your GPS files. The standard format is called a GPX file, and ideally you've got a GPS that uses that. There's other types of GPSs that have their own proprietary file type, but they should provide a utility that will convert it to GPX. In any event, what you do with DNR, or even your utility, is that you go to the GPS and you tell it to find the GPS after you've hooked it up with a USB cable. Now in this case, I already have a GPX file, so I'm not going to download an actual GPS. So I'm going to go to File and Load From and go look for my GPX file, and notice that I have GPS exchange format as the file type, but there's several file types you can look for. And I'm going to download the Woody Search at Bishop Pass GPX file. And there we go. It downloads 5,500 individual track points. And for those of you who aren't real familiar with GPSs, you set your GPS to record a point either at a set time interval, like every 10 seconds or 30 seconds or several minutes, or you can tell the newer ones to download after a certain distance has been traveled. So you can have it download every 1/10 of a mile or something like that, or you can actually do a combination of the two. And also with GPSs, the thing to watch out for is that if you haven't saved and then deleted your active file, what you end up with is an entire lifetime worth of individual track points on there. And there's a limit. I think the limit for most GPSs nowadays is like something like 20,000 or maybe even more track points. So you can end up, if you download everything, you can end up creating a track log from just everywhere. But what DNR Garmin allows you to do, you see the date stamp on the track, and then what you can do is you highlight the first one and you scroll down until the end of October 16th's track points, and you just save those. So that's what we're going to do in this. Then you go to File, and then you go to Save To, and we're going to save to a file. You can save it to ArcMap too. It doesn't make much of a difference if you're saving to a shape file, and that's what we're going to do. And notice the save as type. So we're going to save that. Instead of a GPX, we're going to save it to a shape file, which is Arc's native point line and polygon file type. And you give it a logical name so you can find it again. So you give it the date, 2016 10/23. Well, no, I'm sorry, 10/16. And then the person who collected it, or the person whose GPS it was. And then you want to put in whether it's a line or points, or whether it's waypoints. And that's a little beyond what I'm not going into waypoints on this video, but if you mark a point, that's called a waypoint, and you'll want to download those separately. So for instance, if you mark your campsite or an interesting thing you find, then that's a waypoint. But we're going to put track, this is a track log, and then I'm also going to say this is a line, and because we're going to make it a line instead of individual points. Then we save. And now it's going to ask us what the shape type we want, point, line, and then polygon, etc., multi-part, polyline, etc. So we're saving as a line. And what this does is it connects the individual points by the timestamp on it and processes it into a line. And there are also cases where you'll want to save the individual points. And so I recommend doing both, either just saving the GPX on your folder and just leaving it there as its original, because you can go back to it, and then saving it as a line if you think that's the best way to visualize it. So I just hit OK, and then it's saved. So now we go into Arc 10, and that was Arc Explorer. We go into Arc 10, and let's go to the data view, and let's get rid of the tracks we're showing there. And now let's go to our catalog. And oh, incidentally, I saved it to a logical place. I saved it to, in this case, I'm calling it 2016 SARS, Search and Rescue. And this is a particular SAR that just happened this weekend, the Barrett Lake SAR. And then I saved it in the GPS folder. And I've got to refresh it because it's not showing. I'm hitting F5 to refresh. And back to GPS. And there it is, 2016 Durkee, TRK, and line. So we know it's a track log, and we know that the shape type is a line. And so now I'm going to pull it in, and I'm going to put it at the top here so that it projects on the top of everything else. And there's nothing there. We might have to repeat this. We can zoom to layer. Huh. Well, this is embarrassing. Let's give it a large line. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's give it a different color so you guys can see it. Okay, let's give it red. Okay, well, I feel better. I thought we'd lost it. Sometimes the default line it's assigned is too thin to see, and that was the case there. But in any event, we're now projecting a red line. And another way, I've got a special style type here. So I look up GPS, and we have a GPS line here I'll put in. There we go. And now let's save. So that's the actual track of a searcher on a recent search in the Sierra down in Kings Canyon in the Inyo National Forest. And now let's zoom out a little bit, and we'll take in the whole area of the search. And now I'm going to switch to inserting a legend and a north arrow. So for that, we go into layout view. Right now this is data view, and layout view is what you want, is what the piece of paper you're going to print it out looks like. And we can actually make this a little bigger. You want to leave some border there, but you can actually make that a little bit bigger. This is just on a standard 8.5 by 11, and if you want to change that, you can actually right click and go to wait a minute here. Go to page and print setup, and you can change the layout orientation. So if, for instance, you might want to make it landscape, and you might want to go to a bigger piece of paper, and I cover that in my introduction to ArcGIS. But anyway, we're going to use this map, and right now we're at 1 to 126. Let's go down to 1 to 24K and see what we end up with. And we don't quite have the whole search area. Let's go up a little bit. 1 to 40,000. We want to include a lot of the search area there. That'll do. And this is just for the purposes of illustration of how to do this. So I have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper I'm printing to, and I'm printing at a scale of 1 to 40,000. And now I'm going to insert, let's put in a north arrow. And it's good idea just to choose a pretty visible and simple north arrow. You don't want to get too fancy here. Notice that shows up in the, and so we're going to start out by putting it over here, and then let's insert a scale bar. And again, you can, well, choose one of those. You can go through these and decide what's best. Get an idea what each of these are. And finally, let's insert the scale text. And so that's the absolute scale. So we're just going to do, and that'll show 1 to 40,000. And in a minute, we'll arrange all these, but now let's get the legend in there. And so back to insert. And the legend is what each of the symbols, oh, and we forgot to add, oh, actually, no, that'll work. That'll work, because I'll show you, okay, so notice that the two elements are the ones that are actually checked and turned on here. So we have the track and we have the King's map. So you don't want the symbology for that. So choose the little left arrow here to get rid of it. And anything here on the right that you do want, click the right arrow to put it in. And usually when you do the legend, if you have a lot of data on there, it throws absolutely everything on there. And you can always change it, but you may not want all of that. So right now, we're only going to have the symbol for one element. Then go next. And the title will say legend. You can change that, of course. Your background, white is a good choice, although I've often used kind of a light yellow, but again, fool around and see what works best for you. I'm not choosing a border at the moment. I've got the just the one element in there, and we finish. And so there's your legend, and it's already got a white background. But notice what happens. I'm going to add a helicopter on there. It should have automatically gone on, but it didn't. So you double click inside Legend and go back, and let's add helicopter. We'll just add one of these because they all have the same symbol. And then apply, and notice how it shows up down there. And notice how the helicopter track shows up. So what you want to do when you're placing your maps is make sure they don't obscure the map data you're trying to show. So you want it in an area of the map that isn't going to cover it, and or you move the map and still making sure you get all the elements you need in there. So there are two tools for working with excuse me, for working with your map in layout view. Your standard tool set over here, you know, with the zoom in, zoom out, and your pan tool will actually move the map. So we're moving the whole map over here. The elements won't move. And I'm trying to get it here so I can show the track log up here and the helicopter track. And then, and not going over the legend or not obscuring the data with my map elements. And then the second thing is notice these are not hugely visible. So what I'm going to do is put a rectangle in there and just create a rectangle for it to be on. And notice how it obscured all of those individual elements. So what you do is you right click and you go to order, and then you start sending it back. Send it back, and so it'll go one layer. Oh, oh well, it doesn't matter. It went all the way back. Take two. Bring forward. There we go. Okay. So now I've brought it above the base map layer. And now let's move these elements. Let's put, and you just keep clicking until you click the element you want to work with. So let's put that up a little bit. And let's put that at the bottom. And let's put the north arrow, center it. This isn't great, incidentally, but I just want to give you an idea of how you fool around with things. And notice that the scale bar has a whole bunch there, and for only 2 miles, let's put it down to, so it represents 1 mile. There we go. And now you double click and you reduce the number of divisions to 2 and the subdivisions to 2 and apply, and let's see what we end up with. Yeah, that's a little better there, and then hit OK. And that way it's not so crowded. And so now, tell you what, let's put this over here. Let's put the north arrow here just to reduce the space even more. And now notice the box is bigger than we need it to be, so we'll make that smaller. And it's also yellow, and again, you can so you can go down and change the color down here, the fill color, and we'll choose white. Although, as I said, you know, you can fool around and see what looks best. Now, notice that when you move the box, like let's say we want to put it up at the top, that only moves the box and not the elements themselves. But what you can do, and it's still not very well centered, is I'm going to hold down the control key and I'm going to click on each individual element in there. And then I've got everything. I've got the box, I've got the north arrow, I've got the scale bar, and I've got the text scale selected. And then I right click and I group all of those together. So now I can put it up here as a unit. And you can also right click and you can ungroup them at any time and then move them individually again. In fact, it might be a little better to put the legend up there too. And you can do sort of the same thing to the legend. You can convert it to graphics, and then that'll convert each of those individual little symbols to a graphic, and you can move it around. And also, one other thing here is if you change the name. Oops, hang on. There we go. And which one? 552N. I'm just trying to see which helicopter line I put in there, so it's the 18th. So you can change the name here. So you can get rid of those underscores. We can get rid of N, for instance. We can get rid of the underscores, make it look a little neater. And then it's automatically reflected there. And the same here. If you change the name in the table of contents, I don't know if you can hear it on the mic here, but I have an unhappy cat trying to get in to get food. And there we go. So that's a little neater, and you might even want a shorter and or clearer file name than you have there. And I didn't mention your layout tool set here. So if you zoom in or use any of these, it actually changes the map scale. Whereas if you zoom or pan with this tool set, it doesn't affect how you've done your map layout. So I can move the whole thing around like this, and it doesn't change the map. Whereas if I pan with this, it actually moves the underlying map, which as you get closer to printing, you don't want to do that, and you will make that mistake more than occasionally. And one way around that is when you get it pretty much as you want it, create a bookmark, and I usually go something like give it the name of the area you're in, and then give the scale that it's at, 1 to 40K. And that way, if I do mess up and move the map, then I can just go to bookmarks and return it to that place. Okay, and I will add in how to print this puppy. As I said, we're going to do 8.5 by 11. We're going to save and go to File, Export. And for the purposes of the class here, I want your final map in PDF, and so that'll be this process here. And I also would like you to have some of these elements here. I want a legend and a north arrow and a scale bar and text. And it's also nice to put a map title there, but for this class, we're not going to get too carried away, just the basics. And so I've gone to, let's do that again, File and Export Map. And you have a number of choices to export to. PDF is the best. And you choose probably your products subfolder. And Barrett Lakes are PDF. You might want to add a date or something like that. In fact, actually, yeah, you do. let's try and do these things right. 2016, and this is today's date. So 10 and 26. And I always use underscores. Oops, but I put it at the end. Don't worry, I'm a professional. 2016, 1026, and then an underscore, and then what it is. And then save. It takes a little bit of time, but eventually it saves. There we go. And now, trouble is I forgot where I saved it. So we have to go back to export. We have to see the file path. So it's GIS. Oh, I saved it in my Grand Canyon folder. Well, there you go. Now let's go take a look at it. Hang on, I'm going to pause here. Okay, I'm back. Sometimes you get lost and it'll save to the folder that you last were saving stuff in. And so you have to pay close attention to that and make sure you're saving to the folder you want it in rather than what you were last doing. And so that's what happened to me here. I should have saved it in a Barrett Lakes folder, but instead saved it to an entirely different project. But here it is anyway. I've navigated to products, which is where all of your PDFs should be. And let's take a look at it in Adobe Acrobat. And there you go. That's 200%. And this is pretty basic. There's a helicopter track for a search. And when you choose your symbols, of course, you want them to contrast with the map so you can see them. And you want them thick enough, again, so you can see them and so they stand out at whatever distance your map is meant to be viewed from. I don't know what this is. Oh, okay, goodbye. Sorry, we've been fooling around a little bit in this this video, people. It's not the high quality professional level we seek. Anyway, there's a whole bunch that goes into choosing symbols and so on, but I'm not covering them in this particular video. Okay, so that'll do it. Thanks for being here, and I'm not sure what I'll do in the next video, but I'll send you guys a note.